Hey everyone, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. You know, sometimes I wish I had a time machine. I'm sure you've felt this way before. So I could go back in time and warn my younger self about something. And I was thinking about that today when I was watching some old footage of my very first concert where I played with my old teenage metal band Sanctus. And it was for a girl's birthday party. Her name was Lisa. And as I was watching us play, I was like, oh, if I could just go back and tell myself some advice, give myself some tips and hints. I think a lot of things could have gone a lot better. So I came up with 10 things and I thought I would make this video to share them with you guys because maybe it can help some people out there that are about to have their first concerts, or maybe it'll just be fun to watch me rip on my younger self and my younger band members. So the first thing I would have told myself is, I don't care if you have to beg, borrow, or steal. You are gonna go out and buy a tuner for your guitar. I recall that we used to just choose a member who sounded like they were close to being in tune, and we'd be like, hit your E string, and we would all tune to that. And that's just the way we did it back then. We did not have these handy snarks at the time. We had these bigger, bulkier tuners that we had to use, and eventually I ended up getting one. And it looked very 80s, but I missed that thing. The next thing I would tell myself, and I know I didn't have any money back then, but I could have begged my dad or mom a little bit more to buy me some sort of boost pedal. Whenever my solos came up, you couldn't really tell. First of all, because my tone was so crappy, we'll get to that in a little bit, but also because I didn't have any type of mechanism to boost my sound, my volume. So I would just kick into a solo and all of a sudden the song would just sound kind of thin because one of the rhythm guitars was gone, and here I was trying to do a solo with this thin tone, and it just made it sound so small. So I ended up getting an EQ pedal eventually, and I used that as a boost pedal for my leads, and did that for many years actually. It worked great. If I had a time machine, I'd go back and tell myself to get some more lighting. Don't just use a black light. I thought if I brought a big black light, it would be enough to light the whole stage. And as you could see from some of this footage, it was so dark we were having trouble seeing our own fretboards, which is always a problem. It got so dark, in fact, that the girl who was running the party, she actually turned on the house lights just to be able to see us. This one I have to rip on the entire band for. I would say, guys, you gotta at least have 3 more band practices. You sound like you're a cake that is still half baked. You know what I mean? It's just a little bit runny on the inside. We're not tight on the changes. There's another reason for that I'll talk about in a little bit. But have at least 3 more rehearsals. Okay, one where you go through the show and you talk about all the mistakes you're making, really tighten up those parts that seem loose. The next band practice where you all go home and practice the notes you took from the previous practice and try them out. And the third practice will be a full-blown dress rehearsal where you actually stand like you're going to be standing on stage. Play the songs, get used to how it feels standing and playing, and you'll be much better. Bring some backup equipment. Okay, so I didn't have enough money to own 2 guitars at the time. My very first guitar I had to trade in order to get the V, but I should have maybe borrowed a guitar from a friend and just had it ready just in case I broke a string. It was a Floyd Rose Trem system, and I didn't have any backup strings. Like I said, I didn't have the backup guitar, so if I would have snapped a string, I would have had to just awkwardly take my guitar off, set it down, and watch the rest of the band finish out the show. That would have been traumatic. Now, I hinted at it earlier, but I would have gone back and yelled at myself about my guitar tone. Even though I had this gigantic PVPA speaker setup, which wasn't really a guitar amp, and I believe it was a turbo distortion pedal is what I was using, and my guitar was a Charvel V Avenger, I would have been able to dial that in way better. So I would have told myself to back off on the treble, because as you could hear, it's just biting. It's all top end. I would have said add a little bit of mid-range to give it some body, and then beef up the low end a little bit to get a full sound out of it. That being said, I feel like our bass player Corey's tone was pretty good. It really stands out. It's got like this metallic sound, almost like a Megadeth tone. I would have told myself to look up once in a while. I was so focused on the guitar. A lot of it was because I was not confident in my playing, so I really had to zero in on what I was doing on the fretboard. But because I had long hair, I just put it in front of my face and I'd look down the entire time I played. Another reason why I think I kept looking down is because I thought if I looked up and saw the faces of all these kids, who by the way were a lot of the popular kids in my school at the time, I think I would have gotten pretty nervous and maybe distracted, and I would have screwed up a lot more than I did. But that being said, I would have still encouraged myself to at least try to look up and create a little bit more stage presence for the band by doing so. Speaking of stage presence, in addition to me not looking at my feet the entire time, I think it would have been great if the whole band could have interacted a little bit more with the audience like a professional band would do. And it could have been fun to have them singing along to a few parts, especially because we were playing Metallica. You know, if we were playing Creeping Death, we could have had them screaming "Die" with us. It would have been great. Now, even though it looks like Corey's trying to interact with the crowd here, what's actually happening is there was this really annoying kid that went right up to the front of the stage, and he kept making hand gestures and trying to like touch Corey and stuff. And so I think Corey actually kind of kicked at him at one time. So it's not that Corey's trying to interact with the crowd necessarily, it's just that he's trying to actually fight back. Now, in addition to playing to the crowd a little bit to kind of give yourself a more professional vibe, I feel like we should have been interacting with each other a lot more. One thing about our band that happened all the time was I would regularly look at the drummer and he would look at me. We'd have like this communication to kind of clue each other in when certain changes were happening in the song. But we were so far away and it was dark, we couldn't see each other, and so we lost that ability to communicate with each other. He even put this large China symbol up in front of him, which is weird because he never had that at practice. So all of a sudden he has this new symbol. It's kind of blocking our view of each other, and none of us really made eye contact. It's a really important thing as a band to have that sixth sense between you. And the more you play, obviously, the more you're just going to develop that. And you're just going to know when someone's going to do something. When a drummer does a certain thing on the drums, you just know he's going to go on to the next part. That kind of stuff will develop. But here we had pretty much zero communication on stage. And the last thing I would tell myself and the entire band actually is to enjoy yourselves. It's a very fleeting moment. It's your first gig. One day you're going to look back at it and hopefully feel good about it. But enjoy it while you're doing it, because I remember being so nervous. I was so uptight. Every little mistake I made, I just internalized it. I was so in my head and so hard on myself and on the band that I didn't have as much fun as I could have back then. So I would tell myself in the band, you know, continue working hard. You're going to keep making mistakes for a long time, but try to enjoy it a little bit more because, like I said before, it's very fleeting. And one day you're going to look back on your computer and watch this concert and wish you had a time machine to come back and tell yourself this advice. That kind of went full circle there. All that being said, I really do enjoy the fact that we were so naive back then and we were doing things for the first time, feeling the nerves, you know what I mean, and still doing it, having the courage to still play this show in front of all these popular kids. We did it. We sounded terrible, but we put one in the books. So as much as I want to go back and fix a lot of mistakes and warn myself about things and give myself advice, on the other hand, I'm very proud of what we did and how far we went as a band, all starting from this very first birthday show. All right, everyone, thanks for watching my trip down memory lane, and leave your comments at the bottom and we'll catch you at the next video, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.